First come the vibrations, that's what she said. Next, the distant sound of destruction. Finally, carnage is unleashed. Good luck. So today, guys, we're back with a showdown between the dinos who shall be led by a blueberry SLAAN, which it's actually getting a little bit confusing. So the blueberry SLAAN, if you guys remember, used to be the heaven SLAAN, but now the blueberry SLAAN is actually the light SLAAN. The light SLAAN, which was originally yellow, is now the what is it called? The life SLAAN. So yeah, Lore of Life got the yellow one. The blueberry SLAAN has been transitioned to a light SLAAN. And I'm not really sure what the Heaven SLAAN looks like anymore. But anyways, guys, as far as the build goes, it's going to be Captain Blueberry facing off against Malekith the Witch King over here. Malekith is going to be on his Velociraptor, which is, pretty scary. He has pretty good AP value, so even if he does have to fight big dinos, he's certainly going to be up to the task of dueling those guys. Now, we're going to be going with the Salamander build. I thought about using Razordons, but Razordons, the fact that they have 90 range, just is such a limiting factor. 125 range makes it so that the Salamanders can actually counter skirmish against Dark Riders. And Dark Riders with repeater crossbows are one of the more common picks in the dino matchup. They're mobile, hard for the dinos to catch. I mean, Cold One Cav aren't terribly quick with 66 speed, and I think maybe 70 on the top end with the Horn ones. I can't quite remember, but let's actually go ahead and take a look. So yeah, it's 66 on the Cold One Spear Riders. So the Salamanders here have 125 range, which means they're going to be able to kind of countershoot against Dark Riders, which is huge because if you have Razordons, which will be better against Cold One Knights, and well, I don't know, actually, the bonus versus large might actually normalize that, but Razordons, of course, have a good AP against Hargoneth, against Blackguard, and obviously the AP is helpful against some of the monsters that the Dark Elves do have, or, well, not against Hydras and Cryptus, but of course against like dragons and things like that. But I still think that the Salamanders are just going to be a far better pick. The anti-large is just too helpful, and the range is just such a difference maker. Otherwise, against good players, you're just going to be getting kited. You'll never be able to hit them, and you're going to be taking fire for free. So for the rest of the army, it's going to be 3 Saurus in the front line, and Saurus are just a solid troop. I mean, they're going to be able to beat down Bleak Swords, and they will obviously lose against Hargoneth Executioners, but if we are able to get a little bit of support here from the Blueberry Light SLAAN with Baroness Time Warp, Blood Statuette of Spite, the Aura Pretzel, it's going to make it a much better fight. So we got 3 of those guys. We do also have 2 groups of Skink cohorts with Javelins on the flanks. A pretty good counter skirmishing unit. They have 80 range, which isn't as much as Dark Riders, but the Dark Riders or other cav units are kind of harassing on your flanks and causing problems. You're able to kind of screen them. They have shields. They can move up and kind of push them away from your high value targets, which is very, very strong. So 2 of those bad boys, 2 groups of Cold One Knights, Cold One Spear Riders in the back, anti-large. It's very important in this matchup. It does often devolve into a bit of a cav fight, so you're going to be seeing Cold One Knights facing off against Spear Riders, and that really can be a big determining factor. So we have 2 of these bad boys in the back who are going to be teamed up with the T-Rex. Anti-large, armor piercing, a little bit squishy against focus fire from Dark Elf missile play like Shades, bolt throwers, and repeater crossbows. But with our screening, we should be able to get some pretty good value. And if they do go with like big monsters, you're going to be very grateful you brought this bad boy. Plus, he's always down to go in and teabag some armored infantry. Despite the fact that it does say bonus versus large, he's still pretty good against infantry, like some of these Blackguard and, the Hargoneth Executioners. So for my opponent's force, it's pretty well rounded. Over here on the flanks, it looks like he does have a couple of Dread Spears on the outside of the formation, which is very solid because the cav fights typically don't take place in the center, right? So having the spears on the outside of the formation so you can rotate them out and kind of intercept the enemy cav or at least screen them out is very helpful. In the center, he has some pretty good punch. He's got 2 groups of Hargoneth Executioners, 2 Bleak Swords, and they're going to be backed up by some Witch Elves. So the Witch Elf pick is very good because if I overextend with anything powerful, my cav units, my dinosaur, my T-Rex, whatever, these guys do have the rampage mechanic. So if we take a look right here, for anyone who's new to the game, they do have the Madness of Cain. So it's going to be lowering my speed, but more importantly, it rampages me, it holds me in place, and really allows the Dark Elves to isolate those high value targets. On top of that, he does have Malekith. He's got some Shades with dual weapons in the back. So Shades can do a ton of damage against big armor targets. 2 groups of repeater crossbows. Malekith on the Velociraptor with the Soul Stealer and Mark of Pain. 2 of the better abilities for sure. And then also he does have Cold One Knight. So anti-large, it's really going to come down to this cat fight, like I said. So let's get this show on the road, guys, and have some fun. So there's going to be some light skirmishing here with the Salamanders blasting into the Dread Spears. Able to take out a couple models. Looks like we actually took out 5 and did some decent HP damage, so quite happy about that from these little adorable lizards. And the Umbral Tide does have stock as well, so we're going to be popping out of stock and getting some pretty good damage against the Hargoneth Executioners. Now, had I had like Razordons, it might have done a little bit more damage, but I also would have been in range for his Dark Riders. See, that's really the big thing. I just think that the range of the Razordons is going to be just too much of a limiting factor. In the meantime, Skink cohorts with Javelins are going to be screening upward, and they're going to be throwing some sweet Javelins in here at the enemy skirmishers, probably going to be going after the Dark Riders here. So the Javelins are coming in, the Salamanders are going to be counter shooting as well, and we get a ton of damage there. The combination of the Javelin Skinks plus the Salamanders, definitely very solid. Now the frontline fighting's underway. Saurus are going to be colliding here with Bleak Swords, which is going to be a huge advantage here for the Dino. Saurus will beat the brakes off Bleak Swords, especially with the Baroness Time Warp, which is going to be coming in from the glorious Blueberry. So suddenly the Saurus warriors are going to be getting a melee attack buff, which means they're going to be lawn mowing. 56 melee attack. That's one of the big downsides of Saurus, is that they don't have the best like just raw combat stats, but in this case, you can see even the Hargoneth Executioners are taking quite a bit of damage, and the Feral Carno was able to get in and do some good work. So my opponent does countercharge here with the Cav, the Cold One Knights. I was kind of expecting it here, so I pull back the Dino, the Feral Carnosaur, and then I countercharge with my Cold One Spear Riders, and I believe we are going to be dropping a net of Amnitok as well right here in this fight. So Feral Carno is going to be going in. My other Salamanders are going to be hiding behind my other Cold Ones. They're going to be dropping some very, very good anti-large fire into some of these Dark Elf units here. In the meantime, we do get a good engagement here with the Cold One Knights. We drop the Shield of the Old Ones, which is going to be giving a bunch of juicy defensive stats, 22% ward save, and 8 leadership here. We are able to net down those Cav units, and my Cold One Knights, or my Feral range is not working. I just woke up, right? Cold One Spear Riders are able to get a good charge in there, and also the big Papa T-Rex is able to escape with the bonus Time Warp, making his escape even easier. Salamanders, in the meantime, were able to Shrek the other group of Cold One Knights, and just doing a great job, and that's what's so good. I mean, normally, Razordons, like I said, were they up here, they'd be taking focus fire, but because of the range, I'm able to sit back quite comfortably, and plus these Salamanders also do better damage against light armor, so against Dark Elves, like Witch Elves, Sisters of Slaughter, Bleak Swords, Dread Spears, there's some pretty good targets for them in the infantry game. So Malekith is going to be leading a battle here in the center. He's going to be fighting with his Witch Elves, and it looks like he did use a Mark of Pain right here. And also, we're going to be getting a banishment. So the Blueberry SLAAN going to be dropping a nice banishment in the middle of those Witch Elves, and also using a Blood Statue of Spite. Witch Elves are a very high-value unit to kind of focus down, not in terms of cost, but in terms of battlefield control. So the reason why I focused on the Witch Elves is because a single Rampage can lose you the game, right? So I just want to make sure to eliminate that variable, so I don't really have to worry about that. In the back, I did try and flank, I believe. I had some units coming back here and flanking, or actually maybe that's a little bit later in the replay here, but here, I do also have a Skink Chief on the ground. I couldn't afford the big flying mount, but I just had a little bit of gold left, and I wanted to get an extra Cold Blood, so I do have the Skink Chief here who's going to be darting up against Malekith. Salamanders have taken some decent damage from my opponent's Focus Fire from his Bolt Thrower, so the Bolt Thrower in the back has done some pretty steady damage, plus the Shades were able to get 1 or 2 volleys on the Salamanders, but basically at this point, I have the mobility advantage. The Salamanders are just going to be hunting down the enemy skirmishers, and here we are going to be dropping a net of Amnitok. So we net down those Dark Riders, which are the ideal target. Salamanders don't have the best AP values, but they have anti-large and really good damage against light armor, so you can see here we are able to Shrek those Dark Riders pretty good. However, though, Cold One Knights are going to be rampaging into my forces, hopefully getting caught up here on the Saurus Warriors instead of chasing down my Salamanders. And over here, we're using the Feral Carno to just pretty much go after some of the Hargoneth Executioners, and you can see he's happily feasting on them, definitely having a pretty good time over here. Oh, look how enjoyable he is. This glorious stuff. Yeah, he's going to be going after them. Malekith is going to be coming in, and Malekith could potentially duel this Carno, but 3.4k HP on the Carnosaur. Malekith has 3.7. Salamanders are going to be helping as well, but we do have some magic support. So the Light SLAAN here is going to be casting Bonus Time Warp, which is going to kind of counterbalance the Word of Pain, giving me some melee attack at least, but it's going to be able to outlast the Word of Pain here, and we are going to be able to do some really good damage against Malekith, as he does get Tail Whipped. The bounce fire is actually pretty even, despite the fact we've had some pretty good engagements in the Cav game. You can see here the Dark Elves have a lot in reserve here. They have Dread Spears back here, their Shades are quite healthy, they have some Dark Riders here, and it's been a pretty dicey affair, but Malekith has overextended a little bit. I think the Feral Carno here is going to be able to kind of really do some damage to him. On top of that, we do have the little Skink cohorts who are going to be swarming him, and the T-Rex is coming in with the Steel Chair, doing some great damage against Malekith. And we do also have a net of Amnitok coming up relatively soon, so we will be netting down Malekith to do our best to not let him escape. Also, something else to mention, guys, the passive from Lord of Light, which was drastically changed. Let's go ahead and take a look here before we continue forth. You can see here that it because otherwise I'll forget it. So it gives leadership and immunity to Psych. So in this matchup, though, there's not really much we need to worry about in terms of psychology, but again, something to note that is very, very strong. So the Umbral Tide here are going to be shooting downtown, just counter-skirmishing against these Shades, and honestly, maybe I should just attack the Shades in melee with the Salamanders. They do pretty good. I mean, they have 32 melee attack, they have a pretty good little charge bonus there of 28, and they also do hit quite hard. But anyways, we're going to be shooting our firepower here with the ranged attacks, but Malekith is really taking a beating from the Feral Carnosaur. A net of Amnitok is going to be going down once again, and Malekith is certainly in trouble. 1000 HP, the Dinosaur is going to be getting that bonus first large, and you can see here the Feral Carnosaur with the support of the Skinks has just been doing extremely good. In the back line, I was attempting to chase down some of his Cav units, and I was able to chase some Dark Riders off the battlefield. So right now, we're going to be getting these Spear Riders. We're going to be looping up and around the Dread Spears, and this is a bit of a tip here. Whenever you guys are defending an artillery piece, you have to be very cognizant to make sure that you don't overchase, because if you do, your opponent can simply wrap around you like this. So we're going to be coming in the back with the Cold One Spear Riders, jumping right into that cookie jar. Definitely going to be getting those Reaper Bolt Throwers pretty good and tasty like here. Some of the Salamanders are going to be scooting up, and we are going to be using Cold Blood to kind of keep those guys. They were taking a bit of burst damage there for a moment, and I think they might have been rampaging even, I'm not sure, but I don't know why we use that Cold Blood. So right here, Salamander's getting some huge damage into the Dark Riders, and you can see that's pretty much going to be army losses for the Dark Elves, as the noble Cold Ones are able to pull out victory this day. So well played to my opponent. It was certainly a very fun battle. And I do think the Salamanders are okay in this matchup. I don't know, though, if my opponent were to bring like a very swarmy build with a bunch of Dark Riders, like regular Dark Riders, it could be kind of tough to protect them, but With Cold One Spear Riders, a Carnosaur, plus a Light SLAAN, it's totally tripping me out. Seeing the Blueberry, it just kind of screws me up every time. But if you have the nets, you're able to really dictate the terms of those engagements in a very favorable way, which I think really kind of opens up the Salamander play. Now, if you don't have any sort of battlefield control with like nets and things like that, I think it might be a little bit tricky to protect them. And my opponent did have the Bolt Thrower and the Repeater crossbows, but again, the range, the 125 range against the 115 of the Bolt Thrower of the Repeaters is just game changing. It is so damn good. Skinks did a good job. Saurus were able to really grind out that front line, and SLAANs are just so good. I mean, Nakai and the Sacred Crocscore are both good, but I just think that, like, in general, SLAANs are just so powerful. You get the Blood Statuette of Spite, you get the Aura of Pretzel, which gives melee attack, or melee defense, and just great defensive stats. You get a Banishment. Like, they just bring so much to the table. Shield of the Old Ones, it's just such a good ability. 22% ward save and a huge AoE like that is so solid. So it's really hard to kind of not pick a SLAAN, I feel, in a really competitive play. But again, that's just my perception. I think that the Sacred Crocscore, or the Crocscore Ancient, which is the new Crocscore Lord, the general one, is really, really good. Nakai is good as well, but he's a little bit overcosted. I think if Nakai had a cost reduction of maybe like 200 gold, he'd be a little bit more viable, just based on having played him a lot in the early access and things like that. But yeah, Saurus did good. Skinks are a great counter skirmishing unit. If you are expecting kind of a kite build from your opponent, they're shielded. They have good counter skirmishing with their javelins. A very, very solid unit. And the Cold One Spear Rider is pretty self-explanatory. With the net support, Barona's Time Warp, you are able to get those good engagements most of the time, which is quite nice. And I like the Salamanders. Dark Elves might bring like Dark Shards and Shades, but Salamanders have enough range to kind of stay in the safety zone away from those guys. And against Dark Elf Light Infantry, they can actually do really good as well. So I think that Salamanders do have a bit of a niche in the Dark Elf matchup. And even if your opponent, I suppose, comes with like a swarming build, you're still going to have your little javelins. You're going to have plenty of tools to kind of protect yourself. The one thing, in retrospect, I would probably cut would be the Skink Chief. I just thought I might need multiple Cold Bloods to keep the Carnosaur like fighting where I wanted him to. I was really worried about Rampage, but in this case, I just think we didn't really need the Skink Chief, and we could have just gotten some more troops and things like that. And for my opponent's build, I definitely liked it. The Harkenneth Executioners are the one thing. I don't know. They did pretty good, though. 143, 140. I guess they got a ton of kills, but I didn't really get to see what they were fighting, whether it be Skinks. Yeah, so you have the Witch Elves, which is incredibly solid. I think that's a really good pick. The Shades are a nice niche as well against like big armored rushes and things like that. Cold One Spear Riders are good. Dark Riders are good. I mean, most of his build was really, really good. So I think it just came down to a couple engagements. So well played to my opponent, Blind. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Dino versus Dark Elf game with the Blueberry Light SLAAN thing, Beast, whatever it's called now. And we'll see you guys on the other side. Take care.